So there's this guy at the pool that says, I'm small-minded. You see, he's into world affairs. I'm into it's my world. It's mine. I determine my day. I determine my destiny. So he says, I'm small-minded. Because he's into statistics. See, I'm more into noticing the stories people tell. Because I'm really into the states where they live from. See, what's a statistic? A statistic is some data that people make up stories about. You know, back when the problem started, we'll just refer to it as that. In Australia, the unofficial scoop, behind the scenes, the top secret scoop, was 1 in 4 Australians was going to be on a machine. And I just laughed at that. We've got 28 million people here in Australia. 1 in 4 on a machine, impossible. See, I call bullshit bullshit. You see, I also look at statistics, right? It's like 1 in 4 Australian men between 25 and 20 and are on antidepressants. It's horrible. And I go, wow. Because when you do that, you go, oh, I know 4 young guys. I wonder which one of them is on antidepressants. Or if you're between 20 and 25, you go, wow, maybe I should get on them. I could be depressed. See, I'm into driving the bus. And this is where, I mention things like, yeah, right, I've got 2.6 million listens on my podcast. What did you do, Mr. Big-Minded? Because I've got this thing called attitude. And attitude to me means this. You make a difference. Whatever you do. I'm not really a big fan of saving the whales. I'm a fan of doing the lovely thing. You see, I don't live in fear about what's going to happen in 40 years. Right? I'm into giving life to something lovely today. I'm a fan of being the blessing. I'm a fan of what Neville says, you will not pass. See, if you honestly believe, you can't help but imagine lovingly when you pass someone on the street. So when someone around me gets all wrapped up in statistics, I tell them, wow, look at the story you're telling you. Because I bet you've got grandkids in that age bracket, right? Like, oh yeah, so you're imagining they could go on antidepressants, right? Like, oh yeah. And that's why you're holding your breath. So you're making yourself suffer. You're sacrificing your moment of delight right now to imagine shit for your grandkids. Why don't you imagine them doing something lovely? And notice if you feel like encouraging that, or praising them next time you see them, or asking a question, instead of hoping they don't tell you that they're on antidepressants. Because Neville Goddard says, prune the vine, morning, noon, and night. It's in the first 4 lessons of Triple D where we start diving into pruning the vine. Subtly and obviously. This is another one a lot of people miss. Years ago, I mentioned how I got kicked out of a Neville Goddard group, one of the original ones on the Facebook. They were talking about bending spoons. I was talking about the pearl. A lot of people still don't know what the pearl of great price is. And it really just comes down to this. There's only one cause. And if you're blaming a rock in the sky or a rock in your pocket, you might as well have rocks in your head. Because it's the pearl of great price. That's the one cause. That's why it's right in the middle of ManifestingMasteryCourse.com, crass commercial. It's also why we did 3 calls back in June, because they said I had to go vote. See, in Australia, only citizens can vote. Live ones, not dead ones. Right? And citizens must vote, or you get a fine. And I decided I'm not voting. I'm not paying. I'm not going to go stand in line. This is bullshit. Because I'm not into political power. I'm not into statistics. I'm not into government studies. I'm into, what are you giving life to today? So I imagine the day of the big vote, instead of standing in line, I imagine doing a live call. We hadn't done live calls in outside of Triple D in 4 years. And it sold out in minutes, and we did 3 of them. And that became the PearlPowerPack.com, because PearlPowerPack.com, another crass commercial. See, notice how they make you feel, because it isn't what they make you feel. It's how you feel whenever you're tempted or invited to invest. See, Neville says always be investing. I want to know what happens whenever you're tempted or invited to invest. Because people say, well, I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I'm not good at this. I haven't done it. Yeah. Excuse after excuse. And we've all been there. I used to be an excuse factory. Now I'm into this thing called excellence. Because statistically, right, something like 80% of the people are mediocre. Just look at the stats. Right? And by the way, I'm making that up when it comes to 80. It's probably more like 95% of the people are sheep. Some are good sheep, some are bad sheep. That's all right. But it's going to be about 5% of the people, that actually drive the bus of their lives in some way. They decide, they determine, they invest. Most people just spend. They chase happiness instead of getting on the dance floor of life. So let's double back real quick. Ready? Statistics. So here's the fun thing. They all pretend they're objective, but you can cook the books any way you want. Ask the question a little bit differently, sort the data a little bit differently. Notice, the 5-year frame, that gives us data, that gives us conclusions we don't want. Let's go with the 3-year frame. You just change the parameters of the questions until you get the data that you want to determine what people will believe when they're on think tanks. See, I'm not a fan of thinking or tanks. I'm a fan of knowing, where do your thoughts actually come from? Do you have an original one? Yes or no? Because you came here to shine your light on the world. You came here to dance your dance. And a lot of people are just parrots. They listen to what's safe to say, and then they say what's safe to say. I'm not a fan of safety. I'm a fan of soaring. You'll notice it's pretty hard to hit an eagle with a rock. Right, they're being carried on invisible wind currents. They stretch their wings, they soar higher and higher, they come down to earth for food, they look and are majestic. On the other hand, I had chicken for lunch yesterday with sushi. Right, chickens tend to live in cages. Chickens tend to lay eggs for human consumption. Think about that. And most people live their lives playing the chicken game. I'm too chicken to invest, so I don't. God, I remember the thrill of my first actual investment. Opening up a little investment account, putting a couple $100 in, tossing it into something and walking away. Just noticing, do I have faith in my decision, yes or no? Because Neville Goddard taught, your faith in God is measured by your confidence in you. It is not. Your faith in God is measured by your confidence in the moon, or some other rock, or a sigil. You can't buy a sigil and you at the same time. You see, to make up a sigil, you have to imagine doing something. I'm sorry, but let's just call bullshit bullshit. To do an affirmation, you have to imagine doing an affirmation. To imagine effectively, you have to imagine you are someone who imagines effectively. You have to do that effectively, even. But here's the thing. If you believe that you have to chant and light candles and make sigils and do all sorts of dumb shit, you are ignoring the power you are, the power behind it all. And I know someone's going to say, but Mr. 20, I did affirmations and got $1 million. It was delivered to me by a 7-foot-tall blonde woman in her undies. We call them skivvies here. But it's like, right, well, let me ask you a question. While you were doing all that dumb shit, what was your imaginal experience? Oh, wow, man. Well, I just knew it was true. Well, there's what you blame it on. You don't blame the car turning because of the turn signal. You don't even blame the steering wheel. But it's the driver operating the steering wheel that turns the car. Sometimes the driver will use a turn signal, but the turn signal is just an indicator. That's why we call them indicators here in Australia. Meanwhile, if you got gold, if you're getting some attitude, if you're noticing, you know what, I have no more time to believe in bullshit like rocks in the sky, rocks in my pocket, putting words and numbers on paper and chanting them into frequencies that You see, you can do all that, but to do any of that, you have to imagine writing down the frequencies, or humming or the frequency. You have to imagine chanting before you can chant, so why not just imagine your wishes fulfilled? And here's why. Ready? Most people are afraid they will fail, so they will complicate it up as much as possible. They're afraid to ask the girl out, so I'll ask her out. Well, I need to drink a beer first, rub my lucky rabbit's foot. That isn't a rabbit's foot in your pocket. I have to do 7 different things. I have to wait for there's my favorite beer commercial. Must be a sign. I'll drink one of those beers too. See, how complicated can you make it? Or you could just really explore. Your faith in God is measured by your confidence in you. You could have some attitude. You could walk away from the bullshit. And here's the thing. 80 to 95% of the world, they believe in bullshit. Me Too clubs. Hey, because there's failure Me Too clubs. They're actually successful Me Too clubs. And there are people that get who they are and how this works. I'm inviting you to the third club. Remember, the first club is failure and you blame other people. The second club is success and you blame other bullshit. In the third club, you actually notice you drive the bus. Welcome to club number 3. More on that soon. But meanwhile, if you got gold, I've got 2 suggestions today. Number 1, pearlpowerpack.com. Pearlpowerpack.com. That's the 3 calls that we did. You can have all 3 of them for the price of 1. The recordings will give to you forever. There's all sorts of bonus goodies too. That's at pearlpowerpack.com. Number 2, the backbone behind all we do, manifestingmasterycourse.com. Just takes about 15 minutes a day. Now here's the thing. I was answering an email this morning, and it pretty much went I don't want to just do 15 minutes a day. I want to nail this. See, there's an imaginal experience there that it's going to take hours of struggle to nail this. Or, it can't be that good if it only takes 15 minutes a day. There's going to be something there. Because here's the thing, right? I commend you for exploring this. Because if you want to do Triple D, it begins, we open the doors in January 2023. That's a couple months from now. On the other hand, if you want to start now with something that will give you a rock-solid backbone, strengthen your core, manifestingmasterycourse.com. It's the backbone of all we do. It's got over a decade of results, thousands of testimonials and success stories. Most of them now are shared in our Law of Attraction by Neville Goddard group, the one that I founded when I got kicked out of Spoonbenders. Anyway, that's what I got. Have a lovely day. Dive deeper, soar higher. You are worth it. See ya.